there is a papyrus that was not supposed to survive. It was found in 2019 beneath the floor of the Temple of Khnum at Esna, sealed inside a ceramic vessel that workers only noticed because restoration equipment cracked the sediment layer above it. There were 3 vessels. 2 held grain records from the Remade period. The third held something scorched, something that had been burned before it was sealed. Conservation staff cataloged it as a tertiary find and moved on. It sat in a storage tray in the Aswan Nubia Museum. For months before, a philologist reviewing field photographs noticed that the script was older than it should have been. Older than the 19th dynasty temple it was found beneath. Older than the ceramic vessel that contained it. And what that script described was not a temple dedication or a funerary prayer or a priestly ritual. It was a description of what the human being looked like before Khnum remade us. Before the wheel turned a second time. Before whatever was done to the creatures the ancient Egyptians called the Shah and Ba, the ones of the first soul, was done to them. Before the form that walked this earth before us was taken apart and rebuilt into something smaller. The papyrus was recovered during restoration work beneath the floor of the Temple of Khnum at Esna. Esna is a real temple. It sits on the west bank of the Nile, 55 kilometers south of Luxor. It was dedicated to Khnum, the ram-headed god, the divine potter, the one the ancient Egyptians believed shaped every human being from clay on his celestial wheel and then breathed life into what he made. The burned papyrus is a first-person account written by a Khnum priest. Ink composition and papyrus fiber analysis date it to approximately the 19th dynasty, around 1290 BCE. The priest describes Khnum at his wheel, but not creating humanity, remaking it. He describes the form that came before, the body that Khnum unformed and then reformed. And the description of that original body does not match any known human morphology in the biological or archaeological record. The priest is not writing theology or myth. He writes as a man copying from a text that was already old in his time, a source, he says, that no longer existed when he wrote this. He was preserving a record he believed was about to be lost entirely. Part of what he wrote was then burned. Dr. Clara Moeller is not a fringe figure. She is a professor of Egyptology at the University of Heidelberg, specializing in late period and Ramesside religious texts. Her publications appear in the Journal of Egyptian Archaeology, Göttinger Missellen, and the Bulletin de l'Institut Français d'Archéologie Orientale. She is a standard reference in her field. In late 2019, Moeller was one of 4 scholars invited to review photographic documentation of the Esna find. The discovery itself was not dramatic. Workers clearing sediment beneath the hypostyle hall floor found 3 sealed ceramic vessels. 2 contained administrative documents, grain tallies, and land records from the Ramesside period. The third contained the burned papyrus. Field logs noted it as a tertiary find, something to be examined later. Moeller published a preliminary analysis in Göttinger Missellen in 2021. The paper focused on script type and ink composition. It confirmed the 19th dynasty dating. It noted archaic textual elements inconsistent with that period. It described the fire damage. The content was addressed in a single paragraph, then nothing. No follow-up publication. No presentation at the annual International Association of Egyptologists conference. No response when 2 researchers at the University of Copenhagen submitted formal access requests in 2022. When one of those researchers sent a direct email, Moeller replied with 1 sentence. The text requires more preparation before it can be responsibly discussed. That reply is dated March 2022. Nothing has followed it. What this papyrus describes, if the translation is accurate, and there is no published reason to believe it is not, requires rethinking what the ancient Egyptians actually believed the creation of humanity was, and what humanity was before it was changed. If that is the kind of question you want to follow, subscribe. This is what we cover every week. The burned papyrus is written in late Egyptian hieratic script. Moeller's preliminary analysis confirmed it contains archaic embedded elements that do not belong to the 19th dynasty context. The priest opens by stating he is copying from the words of the first chamber. Scholars believe this refers to the innermost restricted sanctuary at Elephantine, the original cult site of Khnum. The oldest texts were held by a closed priesthood and controlled across generations. Only certain priests were permitted to read them. The text begins with this phrase, "Before the wheel turned for the second time, the ones who walked were not as we walk." He then uses a term that appears nowhere else in the documented corpus of Egyptian religious writing, Sha-en-Ba. It translates approximately as those of the first soul, not the first humans, the ones who preceded them. The priest gives a physical measurement, 7 handspans from sole to crown. That is approximately 1.9 meters, tall but not outside the range of variation. Then he says something else. Their eyes, the text reads, held the light of deeper water. Their skin bore what the priest calls the sheen of the river beneath the river, and their lifespan was given explicitly. 300 seasons, not 300 years, 300 inundation cycles, the Nile floods once a year, 300. The priest writes this measurement, the way a scribe writes a quantity of grain. No embellishment, no ceremony, just the number, followed immediately by the next observation. Then the passage continues. Khnum looked at what was and found it incomplete. He took the Sha-en-Ba to his wheel. What came away from the wheel was smaller. What came away from the wheel forgot. What it forgot, the papyrus does not say. That section is in the burned portion. This passage would be easier to dismiss if it appeared in one document. It does not. The pyramid texts are the oldest religious corpus ever recovered from ancient Egypt. Carved into the burial chambers of 5th and 6th dynasty pharaohs at Saqqara, they date to approximately 2400 BCE. That is more than 1,000 years before the Esna papyrus. Utterance 600 contains a phrase that has appeared in every standard translation as a description of Atum creating himself and then forming the sky and the earth. In 2016, Dr. Willem Adriaens at Leiden University published a reanalysis of that passage in the journal Lingua Egyptia. Adriaens identified a secondary grammatical reading of the central verb cluster, a reading that prior translators had consistently defaulted away from without explanation. Under Adriaens' reading, the phrase does not say created himself. It says remade what had been made. The verb distinction is not subtle. In Egyptian grammatical structure, there is a clear separation between arj, to make from nothing, and arjem, to remake, to reform from existing material. Utterance 600 uses rjm. Adriaens presented this analysis at conference proceedings in Cairo in 2017. No rebuttal appeared. No counter-analysis was published in any of the journals that regularly engage with the pyramided texts. The paper exists in Lingua Egyptia. The argument is fully documented. The field moved forward without addressing it. What a text says and what the physical record shows are two separate categories of evidence. In 2018, an Egyptian-American archaeological team excavating at Hierakonpolis found something their own publications treated inconsistently. Hierakonpolis is one of the oldest known urban settlements in Egypt. The material there dates to approximately 3500 BCE, nearly 1,000 years before the first dynasty. In the pre-dynastic necropolis, the team uncovered a cluster of 9 adult burials. Their physical anthropologist, Dr. Janet McPherson of the University of Chicago Oriental Institute, flagged the individuals as anatomically anomalous in her field notes. The cranial vault volume of each individual measured approximately 15% above the documented range for pre-dynastic Egyptian populations. Femur to tibia ratios in all 9 fell outside the standard distribution for any modern or ancient human population in the existing comparative database. The team published their primary findings in the Journal of African Archaeology in 2020. The skeletal anomalies were listed in an appendix. The language used, within the range of natural variation, pending further analysis. McPherson's field notes, archived at the Oriental Institute's Project Documentation Center, describe the same 9 individuals differently. She wrote, "These individuals are not presenting as outliers within a population. They are presenting as a different population entirely." That sentence did not appear in the published paper. The further analysis has not been published. The visible decoration inside the Temple of Khnum at Esna dates to the Ptolemaic and early Roman periods. These texts have been studied extensively. Serge Soneron published a comprehensive critical edition of the Esna Temple corpus between 1959 and 1982. It remains the standard reference, but Soneron worked from the surface. During the 2019 restoration, when conservation teams began clearing accumulated deposits from the inner sanctuary, multispectral imaging revealed something beneath the Ptolemaic paint layer. An older layer, the Ministry of Antiquities Conservation Report, published in 2023, addresses this discovery in 9 lines. 9 lines in a 412-page document. The older paint layer shows Khnum at his wheel. The basic composition follows the standard arrangement of every known Khnum birth scene. But the figure being shaped on the wheel is not proportioned as the Ptolemaic figures above it are proportioned. The limbs are longer relative to the torso. The cranial ratio to the body is rendered differently. The conservators called it a variant artistic tradition from an earlier building phase and moved on. No specialist in archaic Egyptian iconography was named as a contributor to that section of the report. No imaging data from the older layer has been made publicly available. This pattern, a creator deity not making humanity from nothing but remaking something that already existed, appears in cultures that had no documented contact with ancient Egypt. The Atrahasis epic is a Babylonian text dated to approximately 1700 BCE. It predates the standard flood narrative in the Epic of Gilgamesh and is considered among the oldest creation accounts in the ancient Near East. In the Atrahasis, the gods do not create humanity from inert clay. They combine divine clay with the flesh and blood of a slain god. But the Akkadian word used to describe the material being mixed into this process is a specific one, a willum. That word means person. It means human being, doctor. Thomas Birch of the Karsten Niebuhr Institute at the University of Copenhagen addressed this in a 2013 paper published in Archiv für Orientsforschung. He noted that the choice of a willum, rather than any word for inert or divine matter, implies the pre-existing ingredient already had human characteristics. He noted it. He did not pursue it. The paper moved to other textual concerns. The same structure appears in Sanskrit tradition. The Shatapatha Brahmana, a text of extreme antiquity within Vedic literature, describes Prajapati, the lord of creation, making humanity twice. The first attempt produced beings he found incomplete. He destroyed them. The second attempt produced the humans of the present world. The text does not describe the first beings in detail, only that they were different, and that the end of them was not gradual. Modern genetics has not resolved a specific anomaly in the human evolutionary timeline. Homo sapiens appears in the African fossil record approximately 300,000 years ago. For the next 200,000 years, the species slowly and inconsistently, no dramatic divergence from prior behavioral patterns. Then, at approximately 70,000 BCE, the genetic record changes. The Toba supervolcanic event in Sumatra produced the largest eruption in at least the past 2 million years. A 2010 study by Dr. Marcus Reed and colleagues at the University of Utah, published in the American Journal of Human Genetics, found evidence of a severe population bottleneck coinciding with that period. The species may have been reduced to between 10,000 and 30,000 individuals worldwide. That finding is not what is difficult to explain. What follows it is, after the bottleneck, human genetic diversity does not rebuild gradually, as population genetics models predict it should after a near-extinction event. It rebuilds in a pattern showing rapid directional change in specific traits, the FOXP2 gene variant associated with complex language, the ASPM and microcephalin variants associated with brain volume regulation. These do not appear spread across millions of years of natural selection. They appear in concentrated clusters beginning approximately 40,000 to 50,000 years ago. No mechanism in the current evolutionary framework fully accounts for that pace. The field describes it as rapid. It has not offered a cause. Here is what has not been done. The burned papyrus has been in the Aswan Nubia Museum since November 2019. No independent imaging team has been granted access. No full translation of the surviving text has been published. Moller's paper in Göttinger Miscellen confirms the document exists and describes its physical characteristics. It does not reproduce the Shah-and-Ba passage. It does not quote the measurement. It does not name what the priest said Khnum remade. The 2 formal access requests from the University of Copenhagen were declined. Conservation concerns were cited. No timeline was offered. The 9 anomalous skeletons from Heracon Polis remain in storage at the Cairo University Anthropology Department. The follow-up analysis that McPherson's own field documentation indicated was forthcoming has not appeared in any indexed journal. Adrian's 2016 reanalysis of Utterance 600 from the pyramid texts has received no formal response in 8 years. The older paint layer at the Temple of Esna, the one showing a differently proportioned figure on Khnum's wheel, has not been the subject of a dedicated study. No imaging data has been released. No art historian specializing in archaic Egyptian iconography has been listed as examining it. The Shah-en-Ba phrase has not been formally compared to the pyramid text's material. It has not been formally compared to the Atrahasis Awilum construction. It has not been formally compared to the Hierakonpolis skeletal data. No comparative study connecting these bodies of evidence has been initiated. This is not a case where the evidence was examined and found insufficient. The examination has not taken place. The drawer in the conservation wing stays closed. The strip of masking tape on the front still reads, in black pen, 3 words, Khnum, Esna, Fragment IV. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.